Hey guys, welcome back to 428 Shibuya Scramble. This is Teacher here, Gamer Girl, signing on. Last episode, we continued Minorikawa's story up to a keep out. So we had two keep outs then, and then we started also a story to find out a bit more about the fiasco going on with the antivirus. And that ended on a keep out. And one of the most best written moments I have seen in this game so far. Legit, that was one of the best written moments in the game so far. I thought it was one way and it was another, but we didn't get to see what it actually was because came out. So now we're gonna start Kano's 2 o'clock. Kano had been watching Syndicate members hand off the attaché case for an hour and a half. He still had no idea where this relay might be headed. The man he was tailing now was about 10 meters away, close enough that Kano could close the distance and apprehend him at a moment's notice. But his orders remained the same: follow and observe. He watched as the case was handed off once more. By now, the shock of seeing it past yet another accomplice had worn off, and it was probably to the point where it was, oh, for God's sake, really? It's already been 90 minutes, huh? It was Sasayama. At some point, he'd crept up on Kano from behind. They don't seem like they're trying to get away at all, Kano said. They're just walking. What could they be up to? Sasayama shrugged. Yeah, it's weird. Kano recalled dictum number 89. I'm still waiting to hear about 69. The more irrelevant something seems, the more relevant it's bound to be. If Tateno's wisdom held true, the Syndicate must have some reason for what it was doing. Were they just trying to throw the investigators off their scent? No, that couldn't be it. They were wandering in circles, staying right in the same area. They were just running up the clock. What if that's exactly what they were after? Buying time. Kano felt a sudden conviction that he was on the right track. If they needed more time to make sure they got their hands on the ransom payment... Wait, hold on. Could it be that... the real case had already been switched out? Could it be that the real case had already been switched out? It made a certain amount of sense. By handing the case off to one accomplice after another, they were leading the detectives to pay more attention to the individuals than the case itself. That could enable them to swap the case while all the focus was elsewhere. Kano shared his hunch with Sasayama. I see. I mean, it is a possibility. Yeah, we might have been following the wrong case. There was palpable tension in the air now. Kano, Sasayama said, you've got to report into Kuze. On it. Kano's head flashed to his wireless. But Kuze was dismissive. No, that's the case, I assure you. And no offense, sir, but how can you be sure? Kuze sighed. Because that's my job. There's an ID tag in that case that allows us to keep tabs on it. There's no way these crews could have whipped up a duplicate. ID tag? What ID tag? Wait, no, that's right. Kano had forgotten all about that detail in the wake of his all-nighter. Oh, right. Don't you all-right me? Clearly you weren't hired for your brains. Focus on what you're good at. Rude! Because they ended the call. Still, Kano couldn't shake his conviction that something was off. The man with the attaché case made his way back to Shibuya Station. The heck? Sasayama grumbled. He's right back where we started. Kano felt his frustration growing. It honestly looked like the Syndicate was just randomly lugging the case around town. Near Shibuya Station, a girl approached the suspect. She was Japanese. Oh, that must be the girl that Minorikawa hired. And entirely unlike any of the other criminal accomplices. She spoke to the man while showing him something on a notepad. He glanced at the pad, but did not slow down. Within moments, he had left her behind. It looked like she just passed him a message. Well, that's sure fishy, Sasayama muttered. What, the girl? Asked Kano. Yeah. Wanna go hit her up? Sasayama could only mean one thing, questioning her. She can't be involved with this, can she? Sasayama flashed him a skeptical look. Don't let your preconceptions get the better of you. Could get you killed. Fixed notions about one has something about before the facts are known can be a hindrance to thinking freely. If you think about it too hard, you might fall victim to the preconception that preconceptions itself are always bad. I know that, but still, she doesn't come across as involved to me. Kano knew better than to judge people based on appearance, but he was so convinced the girl wasn't part of this game. She just struck him as far too, well, inept, really. Alright, I'll go look into the girl, Sasayama said. You keep following the attaché case. Kano nodded and hurried after the man. The man's black garb made him stand out in the crowd at the intersection. It occurred to Kano that all of the criminals who'd handed the attaché case had been wearing the same black clothing. That fact made the whole situation even weirder. Could they really be ignorant that they were being followed while they were all wearing the same eye-catching outfits? It was more like they were going out of their way to make sure the investigators spotted them. I still didn't provide any clues as to what they were after, though. The longer Kano kept tailing these guys, the less it all made sense. Was it really such a good idea to keep this up? Someone's life was in danger, and they were just letting the kidnappers carry out their plan, whatever it was. The very first page of the Dick Diary spelled things loud and clear on that front. Dictum number 1. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect, ever. Right now, the single most important thing was ensuring the hostage's safety. This was a situation where Tatano would have stuck to his guns for sure. Kano thought back to that day 3 years ago. A burglar had shut himself inside a financial office and doused the place in gasoline. Kano had just been put on police box duty, and was ordered to the scene because his box was just down the street from the standoff. Nobody is assigned to a detective post right after graduating from the police academy. Detective positions can be quite hard to come by. Candidates are selected for detective training only after accumulating enough experience working at the local police box, a very small type neighborhood station manned by only a handful of officers. Several officers had surrounded the building, keeping close tabs on the situation. The suspect was shouting nonsense through the entrance of the first floor. Things were getting heated. A crowd of alarmed onlookers had started to form as well. Step aside, a voice said suddenly from the midst of the throng. A middle-aged man in a rumpled business suit had approached Kano as he hovered nervously at the edge of the scene. I'm sorry, sir, Kano said. You have to stay back, for your own safety. He attempted to usher the man back into the crowd. A no-nonsense look crossed the newcomer's face. He spoke in a low voice. I'm Detective Tatano from the Shibuya precinct. What's the situation? Oh, sir, I'm so sorry. Yes, of course. Kano stammered, then quickly explained. He hasn't taken anyone hostage, but there are still people on the upper floors of the building. Giving only a slight nod, Tatano marched straight up to the building. The plastic container of gasoline the suspect had used was on the ground out front. Tatano picked it up and dumped the remaining contents out over his head. Kano was at a loss for words. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. I've covered myself in gasoline too, Tatano called out from the entryway. The tension in the air ratcheted itself up several notches. Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? Kano heard the burglar shouting from inside. If you're gonna do it, Tatano called out. We can die together. And he walked into the building. All Kano could do was watch the things unfold through a plate glass window. Tatano was talking to the burglar, but Kano couldn't make out the words. The crook was clutching a lighter, his hand trembling. His expression was like that of a frightened child. Tatano slowly approached him and took firm hold of a shaking hand. The onlookers erupted into cheers and applause. Tatano handed the now docile suspect over to the detectives, then wearily sat down against the planter out front. It was like something ripped straight out of a police drama. That was amazing, Kano breathed. You have to deal with guys like that as quickly as you can. You let a situation like this get even a little out of hand, and you never know how things might go south on you. Tatano spoke quietly, almost as if he were talking to himself. As the police evacuated the rest of the building, Kano noticed that there were children and elderly people among them. If the perp had managed to set the fire, there was no way they would have escaped in time. But, I mean, what if he'd actually set the place on fire? If someone's willing to risk their life, you're not going to convince them of anything unless you do the same. Kano still remembered the awe he'd felt at Tatano's matter-of-fact tone. Kano hadn't become a police officer out of real sense of duty. He just thought it would make Rumi happy if he became a detective like her father. Besides, silver servants tended to stay afloat in times of recession, and his time playing rugby meant he was in good physical shape for the job. He never really thought too much about protecting the citizenry or keeping the peace. But now, here he was in the presence of a detective who literally risked his life in the line of duty without a second thought. A police officer never loses sight of what he's supposed to protect. Ever. Getting back to his feet, Tatano tugged off his gasoline-drenched coat and walked away. Kano wrote the words in a notebook he'd just purchased. Thus, the Dick Diary was born. Thinking back to the way Tatano had put his life on the line to rescue a bunch of strangers made Kano feel all the more raw about just tailing these syndicate members. Letting the crooks just wander around wasn't going to bring Maria Osawa to safety. Of that, Kano was now certain. Shoot, he's bleeding pretty bad, he heard someone say behind him. Holy, what the hell happened? He turned and saw two young men carrying another along. There was a towel wrapped tightly around the third's head. Hey, what happened? Kano asked. Shut your mouth, Kano blanched. Can the attitude. He's trying to help, another voice cut in. It was Sasayama. Had he finished dealing with the girl by the station then? What happened to your friend? Out of my way, man. I ain't afraid to kick your ass. Look, cut the crap and let me take a quick look. Sasayama unwrapped the towel from around the young man's head. Oof, that's nasty. The young guy was a little more than a kid. His head was soaked red with blood. He appeared to be unconscious. Couldn't just leave him like this, but they were... Yeah, they were in the middle of a job, but... They couldn't just leave him like this. They should probably take him to a hospital. Kano offered to help carry the bloodied young man, but Sasayama stepped in front of him. He quickly flashed the two youths his badge. Oh crap, you a cop? Sasayama nodded. Who you kids with? The Bamps? Bamps. Shibuya's number 2 gang. Its leader, Sohei Ikari, has gathered up some big mean dudes in an attempt to make Shibuya his turf. The gang's leadership is inferior to that of SOS, but on an individual level, its members tend to be stronger in a fight. Word is that the rise of the Bamps is one of the reasons SOS has been growing more combative recently. SOS, admitted one of the young men after some hesitation. Who attacked you? Yo, it ain't like that. What was it like then? Infighting? The young man was silent. Sasayama must have been right on the mark. In the course of the police duties, Kano picked up a fair amount of street gossip from the young people in Shibuya. Lately, the scuttlebutt about the legendary SOS gang was that they were dealing with some internal strife. Look, don't worry about it. I get it. There's a hospital just down that way. Hurry up and get him there. The young man batted off Sasayama's offered hand, then quickly hauled his friend away. Sounds like SOS is on the verge of breaking up with all this infighting, huh? Kano asked. He kept his eyes on the young man as they headed off. Yeah, seems like it's been pretty rough. what with the original leader leaving and all. The detectives in juvenile affairs were well acquainted with SOS's original leader. That would be Achi Endo. Initially, SOS was nothing more than a small group of like-minded young people who gone out together, but as its membership grew, the general public began referring to the group as a gang. Word has it that back when Achi was in charge, gang members never started any conflicts themselves, but simply responded in kind when others brought fights their way. The stories were something like something out some after-school special. There were tales of them taking down gangs who sold drugs to kids or breaking into Yakuza front offices to save their friends. The detectives with juvenile affairs took these stories with a grain of salt, but if there really were young people like that out there, Kano hoped to meet them someday. The detectives had to hurry to catch up with the man they were tailing. He was still strolling along, seemingly in no particular hurry. They kept him in sight as he crossed another pedestrian overpass and circled back around. Still following the same MO, huh? Sasayama grumbled. Guess so, Kano said. How'd things go with the girl? He was careful not to take his eyes off the mark as they talked. You were right. She's not part of this. Just one of those street evangelists or something. Oh yeah? Yeah, she kept asking me, but are you really happy with your life? Wigged me out. I bailed out of there quick. So, Sasayama, I'm thinking the attaché case is going to get handed off again any moment now. Huh? Sasayama appeared at the mark, who was scanning the plaza he just entered, apparently looking for someone. I take one side, you take the other, Kano suggested. Sasayama's eyes went wide. Say what now? That way we apprehend both perps involved with the handoff. Sasayama didn't reply. Look, HQ isn't thinking about the hostage's safety, Kano said. But that needs to take priority here. Sasayama's face took on a rare solemnity. Disobeying direct orders is not something I do lightly. It's not something I do lightly. Detective's behavior is governed by the Local Public Service Act. Article 32 states that a detective is to faithfully follow his orders of a superior in the course of his duties. Violating this is punishable by a warning, reduction in pay, suspension from duty, or dismissal. In the event of a warning, not only is the... Excuse me? Seriously? Not only is the individual expected to submit a formal letter of apology, but pay raises may be delayed and performance bonus... Dude! That's not right. Sometimes you gotta go with your gut. Then, after a moment, he added, but I'm on board. I'm sick of all this wandering around anyway. That's the Sasayama I know, Kano replied with a chuckle. Sasayama gave him a silent thumbs up. The two detectives took up a position on the opposite sides of the plaza. Kano called up Sasayama on his cell phone. Ready? He asked. Just give the word. There were only two non-Japanese people in the nearby crowd. Both were eyeing their surroundings anxiously. Kano was certain the handoff was about to take place. And then... Well, if it isn't Mr. Toyama. Toyama? Kano's ears perked up at the sound of an aggressive greeting with a voice dripping from feigned cheer. Oh, it's the debt collectors. He whirled around to see two rough-looking young men confronting a father and his daughter. The older man looked pained. Please, just hold on, he said, placatingly. I thought we agreed on 4 o'clock. The young man snarled. Don't you try and play dumb with us, buddy. It's nothing like that, I swear. My girl was just hungry, so I just stepped out to... Yeah? How come you didn't just order delivery, huh? Ah, yes, right. I suppose that would work too. Don't you me, man. Kano watched the argument uneasily. The stranger's altercation put him in a bit of a spot. The crook he was tailing probably wouldn't risk handing off the case with an uproar like this going on. What's going on over there? Sasayama asked. I'm not sure, Kano replied. Looks like some kind of argument. The suspects are going to get wary on us. It's going to screw up the whole handoff. Yeah, I know. So do something about it and get over here, Sasayama said. What? Find some way to shut them up and then get over here. Oh, sure, alright. Kano headed toward the argument. He was only halfway there when Sasayama called again. He sounded panicked. Hey, Kano! He made a run for it! Huh? Oh crap! The man they'd been tailing had vanished in the brief time Kano had taken his eyes off of him. Wait up! Kano shouted. Sasayama was racing after the suspect and Kano rushed to join him. The man was surprisingly quick, however, and neither detective managed to catch up to him. In fact, they soon lost sight of him amidst the teeming crowds. Frantically, they dashed through the streets as fast and as hard as they could. We lost him, Sasayama admitted at last. Damn it! He stamped his foot in the asphalt in disgust. Director Kuze? Kano gasped over the wireless. I'm sorry, but we lost a man with the attaché case. There was a heavy sigh on the other end of the line. Kano braced himself. He wasn't going to be able to weasel out of this one with just an I'll do better next time. Sasayama, Kano, get your asses back to the precinct. Kuze out. With that, Kuze switched off the line. Back to the precinct. Kano knew full well what they meant. That they were off the case. There was a gnawing in his gut. If those two punks hadn't showed up. No, if that father and his daughter hadn't turned up, he might have been able to apprehend the suspect. Is that another bad end? Aw, don't let it get you down, Sasayama said. I mean, paper pushing can be kind of fun. The look on his face, however, suggested he didn't think it was fun at all, not one bit. With the air of two men heading into an execution, Kano and Sasayama trudged back toward the Shibuya precinct. This is a bad end, isn't it? And Kano! Kano is like the one character I've been getting the most bad ends with. Kano was taken off the case because he lost track of the suspect thanks to a random altercation nearby. If a certain someone needs to give those two better advice. Midoriyama. Alright, let me change that for you, Kano. Oh! A certain someone needs to meet up with them outside his or her house. Okay, so I might need to switch to Achi. Achi and Hitomi scampered through the back roads along Center Guy, white sneakers and pumps slapping on the pavement. Achi kept his eyes peeled, continually checking ahead and behind as they darted through the gaps between the buildings. Finally, they stopped in a narrow alley. There's no way they'll find us here, he said. No one knows about this place. He took another look around, then let out a sigh of relief. It seemed they managed to check the gunman. For now. Back when Achi was with SOS, he had come through Sentry Guy practically every day. The abbreviation for Stas is Shibuya, oh, so that's what it means. The name given to the group by Achi when he founded it. Originally just a bunch of like-minded people. Yeah. The gang had started out as little more than a group of local teens. They didn't do much in particular, just horsing around and killing time. What mattered was that they were having fun. But it wasn't long before it wasn't all fun and games. Achi couldn't help but notice the slobs who were making a mess of Shibuya, dirtying it all up. He wasn't about to let them get away with it. Most frequently, it was folks who tossed cigarette butts out on the street or plastered walls in graffiti. When they didn't respond to his more gentle warnings, he found slightly more forceful ways to get his point across. SOS got a reputation. Street punks started trying to pick fights with its members. Those guys required a bit more force to handle. And when it came to the worst of the lot, the drug dealers, the muggers, the guys who tried to force themselves on women, That was a full-on battle, no holds barred. Before long, SOS had established itself as something of a vigilante corps. Soon, it became known as one of the biggest gangs in Shibuya. Let's lay low here for a bit and see what happens, Achi said. The alley where they hid was like a dimly lit chasm, obscuring them from view. The only problem now was figuring out what to do next. They needed to find that blue van again, which meant figuring out the best way to get back to Dogonzaka without the man with the cane catching them once more. Achi? Hitomi whispered. I think I can handle myself from here. She got to her feet and gave Achi a deep bow. Whoa, Achi held up a hand. We've been over this already. You're not gonna be okay. The guy has a gun. If you let her go up against that assassin alone, he might as well be the one to pull the trigger himself. Thank you so much for everything you've done for me, Hitomi continued as if she hadn't heard him. She started to shuffle out of the alleyway. Hey, what'd I just say? Really, Achi, I appreciate your concern, but I can't in good conscience put you in danger anymore. But, Achi tried to press the point, but Hitomi cut him off. There's no good reason for you to risk yourself to keep helping me. Her tone was resolute, but Achi was determined to help her. Anyway, he refused to back down. Look, I want to help people who are in trouble. What's so wrong about that? Huh? He locked eyes with Hitomi, willing her to understand. I'm not the most dependable guy, I know that. But still, Hitomi dropped her gaze, and Achi trailed off, feeling like an idiot. It's no use. I'm no use. He hung his head with a sigh. Just then, a bit of light shone into the alleyway from above. It looked like someone on the adjacent building's upper floor had turned on the lights. A jump to Kana. Tama. But let's continue with Achi's for a bit. The Nokane building. A multi-tenant building has several floors, but a decades-old urban legend that tells of a mysterious 13th floor. A Diet 8 sales demo is being held on one of the upper floors today. The light illuminated Hitomi's face. When Achi saw the look in her eyes, he reconsidered his decision. She was trying her hardest to hide it, but she was clearly terrified. No way was he letting her go back out there alone. Still, if he tried to insist, she would only refuse him again. Hitomi? Humor me for a second here. Tell me, what's the proper way to dispose of a plastic bottle? She stared at him in surprise. Well, first you remove the cap and the wrapper. Then you rinse out the inside and crush it. Achi let out a breath he'd been holding. Okay, good. Huh? I don't understand. What's good? You gave me my reason why I have to help you out. I super respect people who respect the environment. I'm one of those... whatchamacallits. An environmentalist. Achi pointed to his mean, clean t-shirt. Hitomi hesitated. And what was your plan if I said the answer was to toss the plastic in with the trash? Well, then I'd need to stick with you to help teach you. Environmental awareness begins with good education. So then you were going to tag along with me regardless. Look, I'm just super pumped to learn that you care so much about proper recycling. Achi cracked a huge grin. Okay then. Okay. If you're really sure about that, I guess I could use your help a little while longer. Hitomi flashed him a little smile. Man, she's so cute, Achi. Dude, just kiss each other already. Do it! This game has already done enough to ship the two of you with each other. Seeking out from the alley, Achi and Hitomi began to make their way along the side streets back toward Dogonzaka. It was a pretty big detour compared to taking the main thoroughfares, but that would be worth it if it meant they avoided the man with the cane. Achi looked over at Hitomi as she walked alongside him. Her face was solemn, but he could heal the intensity of her worry for her sister. I doubt it. He could feel the intensity of her worry for her sister. Oh, well, look who's got himself a little cutie. Ah, shit. The sudden call startled him. He spun around. Yo, Mean Clean, over here! Achi spotted a young man up ahead, sneering at him. At his side were two others. Oh! Did Achi get into a fight with these guys? Achi recognized the lot. SOS. Hitomi let out a nervous squeak. Achi? Don't worry about them. He led her onward, attempting to stride right past the trio. Whoa, hey now, you just gonna ignore me? That's pretty damn rude, especially coming from someone who used to be an old buddy. The three toughs moved to bar Achi's path. Ooh, she is hella fine. Come on, ain't you gonna introduce us? Extremely attractive. The etymology of hella is somewhat unclear, but its meaning is undisputed. Very, a lot of, totally, and the like. Potential synonyms for hella fine include mighty fine, fine as hell, and banin'. Sorry, man, Achi said. I'm in a bit of a hurry here. He gave them a tepid smile. Big hurry, huh? Where to? Some love hotel in Maruyamacho? Too rich. Another chimed in. She a screamer, Achi? Achi! They burst out howling like a gang of monkeys. One of them cackled like a grinning idiot. Achi! Achi! Achi felt his anger boil. There was too much at stake. He was just going to have to suck it up and ignore them for the time being. Gritting his teeth, he tried to slip past them, but the largest of the three grabbed him by the collar. You ran out, man. Susumu's the one who runs this town now. You got no right to keep acting like you're the boss of us. He shoved Achi up against the wall. Says who? Achi said. Susumu? Say what now? Did Susumu say I've got no right to act like the boss? Bitch, please. Susumu ain't got time to worry about your sorry ass. Ah, is that so? Ooh! Achi's fist flashed out, catching the man clean on the jaw. He dropped to the ground with a dull thud. So tell Susumu this. Everyone in Shibuya needs to just play nice and have fun. Achi kept his tone light and jovial, but he eyed the two other toughs like a hawk eyeing his prey. Is he going to be alright? Hitomi murmured. She looked at the man Achi had laid out with some concern. Ah, he'll be fine. If that's all it took to knock him out, he's got no right to act all badass. Achi, huh? I don't believe I've had the pleasure. A taller man with an angry gleam in his eye had appeared atop the steps nearby. He must have turned up during the commotion. He radiated a distinct aura of menace. That's me, Achi replied. Just who are you? For once, it was someone he didn't recognize. The name's Yoji Kiryu. Used to roll with a gang from Ikebukuro until a few months ago, known as the Killer Whale of Bukuro. He answered any and all resistance with his fists. His crazy antics led him to being kicked out of the gang, however, and lately he has been hanging around Shibuya. This is bad news. I joined up with SOS after you left. Now, I'm Susumu's number 2 guy. The newcomer stared at Achi, sizing him up. Our legendary founder. I've heard so much about you. The founder. It had been a long time since anyone had called him that. There had been a bunch of arguing over who would take charge of the new group that was forming to set things straight in Shibuya. At some point, folks had started hailing him as the force behind SOS. But founder? That was just something his buddies called him. He'd never paid much heed. Shibuya was a place for fun, not hierarchies. At least, in Achi's mind, that was how it ought to be. Like how you bust up some mean old drug dealers, rescue your pals from Yakuza bondage. Here, bondage is used strictly in the sense of captivity. Any other types of Yakuza bondage would not be featured in this game. Sorry to Tim, they gotcha, huh? Sorry, you Kinksters. There ain't gonna be any of that. You're a real hero. Kiryu's tongue flicked from his mouth like a snake's. Hitomi shuddered. Achi couldn't blame her for being creeped out. That's all in the past now, isn't it? Kiryu continued. You went modestly on your way. It's up to us now. And we've helped SOS grow by leaps and bounds to help carry on your legacy. No matter who stands in our way. That thought didn't sit right with Achi. If aggressive expansion was the name of this game, the game was losing touch with its roots. It wasn't about keeping Shibuya safe and fun anymore. Make SOS bigger, huh? He said. I'm guessing that was Susumu's call as well. Kiryu didn't answer his question. His mouth merely twisted into an annoying sneer. In any event, I think these boys here need a little lesson in manners. The guillotine ought to do the trick. Capital punishment device and... Tell me you're not actually going to use a guillotine! The other game members started an alarm. Whoa, hey, just calm down, man! Please, anything but the guillotine! Kiryu pointedly ignored their pleas. Whoa, hey, what's the guillotine? Achi asked. Kiryu smirked. The guillotine is... the guillotine. With me, worms! Without a glance, Kiryu strolled away. His two underlings followed him unhappily. Achi wondered what lay in store for them. We know what lay in store for them. Two of them were carrying one of them over his shoulders, and he was bleeding out of his head. Come on, let's go. He took Hitomi by the hand, and they were back on their way. Oh. You have that song as your ringtone. I mean, who am I to judge? I have the Digimon theme song from the first season's English dub as my ringtone. Who am I to judge? Anyway, I'll be ending the episode here. The next episode will be continuing Achi's story, and hopefully this will be a to be continued instead of a bad end, like Kano's ended up. Till then, this is the Gamer Girl, signing off.